Okay, we are ready.
Good afternoon to everyone online, and welcome to the ArcheoFOSS 2021 spin-off. We're going to listen to the project from the University of Alicante, specifically done by Jaime Molina, Carolina Frías, Javier Muñoz, Laia Fabregat, Alejandro Martín, and Daniel Tejerina, on the topic of the Roman villa of El Albir, Alicante, Spain, the use of Blender and the extended matrix in the virtual recreation. We have a 2 hours event planned for today, but it will be fine to have the workshop as long as it goes. And now I'll give the floor to Daniel Tejerina with us today, and we will stay in the background if anything is needed. So thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you, Cristina, Domicia, and Livia. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen here now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Tejerina. I come from the University of Alicante, from the Institute of Archaeology, the same the University of Alicante. On behalf of my colleagues and myself, I would like to share with you today the first results of an ongoing project. As always, an ongoing project that we have been carrying out for a couple of years already, and whose aim is not only the 3D survey of the entire archaeological site, but also to produce a 360 degrees short film to valorize this important archaeological site and show people what a day-to-day life was like in this Roman villa. With my teammates here, all we are part of this group, Patrimonio Virtual, within the University of Alicante always, and the Institute of Archaeology. And this is actually the team who is participating and collaborating in this project. So here a few key aspects about this project. It's just we will come later again to any of these parts, but briefly, it's a short film in 360 degrees, made entirely in Blender, using other softwares, but using Blender as the main software. It's divided in 3 different scenes: one in the peristylum, the second one in the balneum, and the third one in the oecus. We have given so much importance to the extended matrix in this project. This is the very first time we use it in a virtual reconstruction, so it's very exciting for us. But I must warn that we are still learning to use this useful tool. So here a few key aspects about this villa, with a chronology that places it between the 4th and the 7th century. It is actually very important to study between the late Roman period and late antiquity in this area of Alicante in Spain. And yes, we're pretty sure we want to focus in this precise period, the 5th century, mainly because it's the best known part of this site, this archaeological site. From this moment on, from the 5th century, there were a series of invasions by the Visigothic tribes. And after Huss's arrival, we only know that the area was partially abandoned, partially used as a necropolis for a while, and then nothing. This site is located in Alfaz del Pi, in the province of Alicante, in the southeast of Spain. After several campaigns over the last 10 years, not only to research, but also to protect this site, The remains are currently well preserved and protected. Here we can see a map with the location, the exact location of this Roman villa, and different aerial photographs in which the architecture of the town and the villa can be seen. Here it is. And a general plan of the villa. This site was discovered in 1979 from public works, which brought to light the remains of a Roman burial. And since then, during the following 3 decades, and actually until today, all this area was studied in depth through extensive archaeological research campaigns. And during these years, different structures were located, such as a mausoleum, a necropolis, and the villa itself, one of the most important, as I mentioned before, in the province of Alicante. Because there are several villas, Roman villas in the province of Alicante, but it is generally agreed that this one is a key Roman villa or a key archaeological site to better understand rural settlement from the 4th century in the north of the province of Alicante. Other pictures. And it is still being studied today. The best preserved and well-known part of this Roman villa is the baths. Let me move on forward just to show you. The balneum is among the best preserved, always talking about domestic balnea, not public or urban baths, is one of the most well-known and preserved in the region of Valencia. This balneum still preserves all the rooms with, let's say, a canonical distribution. So apoditarium, the wardrobe, and a cold, warm, and hot room. So the classical or canonical distribution in a balneum. The hypocaustum, so this underfloor heating system of the hot and warm rooms, caldarium and tepidarium, is very well preserved and still visible today, even if after so many years almost abandoned, it was literally in danger. As for its chronology, although this archaeological site is dated between the 4th and the 7th centuries, what can be seen today belongs mostly to the 5th century, as I mentioned before, probably due to a change of owner. A major restructuring of the villa took place in these times, and it developed with an extension of the balneum and the residential part as well. The residential part actually is still under research. One of the most recent finds is a great oecus. We'll come back to that later, because we are actually working in the virtual reconstruction of this oecus. The oecus is an apsidal room that traditionally functioned as a representation space in the Roman villas of this period, and therefore one of the most important places in all the archaeological site. Unfortunately, there are no epigraphic remains or historical references to this villa, but given the size of the balneum and the entire site, there is no doubt that the owners probably had a huge economic power and were part of the local elite of that time. It is also very likely that he belonged to some powerful citizen who regularly, who knows, lived in some nearby Roman city. This villa being his recreational villa. This is a very well-known and documented phenomenon throughout the empire, so that could be a possibility, definitely. And another curiosity of this villa is that it was also used as a burial place. During the occupation of the site, there was a very close necropolis, actually, with a large number of burials and a wide area reserved for children's burial. And this necropolis actually was enlarged in the 6th century, when the villa was already had been already abandoned. And the last thing I wanted to mention in this brief introduction about the villa we are working on is that between 2008 and 2009, if I'm not wrong, some consolidation and preservation works were carried out, which also included an aerial cover to protect the entire site. And that is important because this is the moment when they began in the town of l'Alfàs del Pi to really be interested in protecting and researching, protecting, and investing in the application of new technologies to visit the archaeological site, the Roman villa. In fact, in 2009, more than 10 years ago, we developed on this site what was at that time the first augmented reality app to visit an archaeological site in Spain. One of these slides should be exactly and this app is still working today, although I must recognize it probably needs an update and a lifting, but I think this is completely normal. Okay. Before talking about the production part in our project to try to reconstruct or virtually reconstruct the Villa of l'Albir, I would like to say that in a project of this magnitude, of these characteristics, everything begins with a preliminary or pre-production stage where actually what you have to do is think of an idea. In our case, and although this may seem strange to you, everything starts with a note like this. Simple and with some brief and clear ideas. Let's say this is our plan, okay? To create a 9-minute, 360 degrees short film whose plot is centered around the Roman Villa of l'Albir. And from here, many things can happen along the way. But the most important thing to do is try to stick to the plan, to the initial plan as much as possible, because things can get difficult along the way. For this reason, it is usually highly recommended to use project management software. All of you are probably used to use this or other software, or simple tools like such as a Gantt chart or a simple schedule. Any software or any tool that allows you to create task distribution like this, because different people, sometimes different teams, are involved in this very project, and it is important that everyone knows what they have to do, how they have to do it, and when they have to deliver it. Very important. And once the initial part is over, we enter to the second stage, the production, probably the largest of the entire project, which includes almost everything you probably are thinking about now, from field surveying, GIS, photogrammetry or laser scanner, whatever, to 3D modeling, extended matrix, translation, I don't know, documentation, so many different things, among many other stages or areas. Normally, we always start with the elaboration of a script, a storyboard, and a layout. And as you can see here, both parts are essential. The script, storyboard, and layout, and the virtual reconstruction. Even if the final result you will see in your virtual reality device seems to be the most part of it, the visual part, behind that final result, there is a huge effort and previous work to be done. So these three things are similar, but they are not exactly the same. When we are going to model something in 3D, it is always very useful. Sorry, this is a script, and this is actually in Spanish, but it's just an example of a script, like any other script in film or TV or similar. As I said, when you are going to model something in 3D, is useful if someone has previously handed you or provided you with a script like the one you see here. This is the first thing with the dialogues describe it to the detail. For example, sorry. But also, it's very useful to use a layout in which we are told, we modelers or animators or director are told when something happens, when a character has to enter through the door and when he has to leave through the other, for instance, because then we have to model and animate that character or that building, and in scenes which lasts for so many minutes, for so many time, it is key to have a previous idea as much exactly as possible of the action. Okay, and we shouldn't animate or model from scratch. Everything is much easier if you already have a guide to follow. And finally, a storyboard like the one you are seeing right now here from our colleague Javier Muñoz, which allows me, who is going to model or animate in 3D, to know so many aspects about the scene I'm working on in that moment, from the framing and camera movements, camera settings, to the position and appearance of all the scene elements. It doesn't have to be very detailed, but it should contain the essential information, just to know. The best part of this is that the people who is working on this layout or script or storyboards are also historians and archaeologists. So you are so confident because these people are able to give you a very reliable information, not just a script. It doesn't matter if you are an artist, if nobody can ensure that information. If the storyboard or the script lacks of a solid foundation, you can move on to the next stage. Okay, this is just another example of a storyboard with some brief description, in this case in the peristylum, addressing the volume. Okay, at this point, I would say that this part is quite similar to any other archaeological research project, and therefore includes, on the one hand, the collection of information on the field, but also the some research and study, analyze all the documentation and data and sources available. After that, we start to work on the reconstruction hypothesis or proposals. Here you can see some sketches that allows us to make a first validation of the different working hypotheses. I say different because obviously there wasn't just one, as in any project. Here you can see the section that crosses the peristyle up to the oecus, here on the left. And this is just another section. Again, very useful to me when it comes to when the time arrives to start modeling. These are just some examples of. Okay, let me see. Now, modeling in a project of this magnitude includes different types of 3D modeling. It's not just 3D modeling, generally speaking, because it's not the same work with architecture than work with I don't know, jewelry or clothing or character creation. Is quite different. So this includes or involves so many different types of modeling, and as in our case, people specialize in different types of modeling. This is some examples of work from our colleague Monica Sanchez, who has created all the artifacts and all the objects of this project, or as the architectural models, in this case by another colleague, Laia Fabregat. But beyond who does the modeling of that object or that building, behind that there is a previous part and more people involved to propose and validate hypotheses, scientific hypotheses for each single element that is then going to be designed. This is a way that allows us to guarantee a good and solid foundation for the work we are going to show at the end of the project, and to organize and collect all this information and record all the decisions that have been made in the project is in that part where we need the extended matrix, but then we'll go to the extended matrix later. This is the stibadium, this huge half round table in the oecus, just to show you some other assets model during the project. Some pendants. Okay, this is just a sneak peek of how things are modeling inside Blender. You probably are familiar with this workflow. Most of you probably use Blender, but for those of you who are not so familiar, this is how we work with artifacts in Blender in a 3D environment, no matter if it's Blender, Maya, or ZBrush, or any other software. any other 3D modeling package. Okay, and the same goes to the architecture. This is, let's say, the final render, but before, as I repeat constantly, again and again, a hypothesis has been validated before moving on to start modeling in 3D. And the same with the peristylum or other parts of the villa. Here you can see some of the sketches with a very basic 3D volume to arrive then to other through modeling techniques and so on, and 3D modeling techniques to the final render. With all the assets in position, awaiting for the virtual characters and the action. And the same goes to the, this is another example, in this case, with the peristylum of the villa's peristylum. Before the hypothesis, just a few volumes and some light parameter, some light settings, just to show how to try to transmit the same feeling as if we were there. And the final hypothesis already validated by the people in charge of that task. So virtual characters. The motion capture has been a new experience for us, but I must say it has been very exciting and very interesting. Before, in other projects, we had already used animated characters to introduce simple animations, but very limited, normally by the animation libraries available in the market today. So after so much research, we of the different options and technologies available today, we decided to bet on autonomous system and dress like in our case for Coco. Actually, when we are finishing this presentation, if anyone is interested, I can give you my honest opinion or review on this type of technology, because okay, in a nutshell, I think autonomous equipment like Rococo Smart Suit Pro and similar equipment are great to start working in motion capture. But at the same time are very limited compared to other technologies like optical cameras and so on. So yeah, it has its advantages and disadvantages. Okay. Anyway, the pipeline in these two slides, I will briefly show you how is the pipeline. Basically, first of all, as always, a hypothesis, then some concept art or some sketches or end characteristics or features required to this character or this other character. Paulino needs to be a big guy with is bald, and it has these representative features, facial features or body features. Boconia or the other characters, and each of them has its own morphology. So you need to know each and any of these aspects just to create a more detail character possible. And then finally you start modeling. Then you move on to the motion capture, and finally to a physics solver to calculate the position of the dress or the clothes in any frame. This is actually a very time-consuming and resource-consuming stage, because it can be made in Blender, but the clothing solver, the Blender's clothing solver, currently is not so reliable compared to any other in the market, like the standard, which is Marvelous Designer. So yes, in this case, we had to make an exception and move to Marvelous to finish our clothing and our dresses. Here you can see how we are helping one of the actors to put on the smart suit just before starting to record. So following the previous slide, this is the rest of the pipeline. You basically create a character, you export it in FBX. This is not the only pipeline, but this was our pipeline, and it's pretty standard, I must say. It's pretty standard. So FBX from character creator or similar packages to Blender. In Blender, then you can manipulate, modify, animate, or change your basic character as much as you want. And then finally, you export in FBX, Blend, or Alembic to other software, in our case, Marvelous Designer. Marvelous Designer is very powerful, solving clothing physics. So this is basically the workflow we follow. As you can see here, we had still so many things to plan to start filming and to start recording. The motion capture is not as easy as one may think. You put on the smart suit and everything magically arrives. No. And there are people in this project directly involved in this task, in charge of the motion capture stage, helping with the hardware, the cameras, the smart suits, and it can become very complicated. But at the same time, motion capture systems save up a lot of time in these projects, which involves animation in some form, in some way. At the same time, we need to create the more reliable and the more detailed movement possible. And I'm talking about body and facial movement. So in this case, after so many tries, at the end you come up with realistic animations and detailed animations. Like in this case, as you can see, you have to try to take the system, in this case Rococo Studio and Rococo Face Capture and Rococo Smart Suite, and take it to the limit, just to know what you can do and what you cannot do. And this is another example, in this case, to show or to try different walking movements. I'm sorry, because in this case, the actor has not the gloves on. So the hands, yes, it seems like a bit like a robot, but the foot, the feet and the leg movements are quite realistic, at least from our point of view, obviously. So I briefly explain how to animate, how to create virtual characters, dress them, and animate them. But obviously, it is not so easy. You need to spend so much time trying to figure out which is the best light possible to that scene, or how the physics of the dress is going to interact with the character. And this requires a lot of shoots, a lot of renders. Like in this case, you probably can understand how different lighting conditions can give you, like in this case, a more this 90 degrees light, and this mixed with these movements creates a very particular feeling. Again, the best way to validate or not an animation is, like in this case, render and calculate different scenarios, different in different lighting conditions, just to make sure at the end to make it easier for you and for the team to choose between the different options in the different ambients. Just to close this part of the presentation, why characters? Because I'm sorry, it's in Spanish. Well, because they are important as well. We are too used to see almost only buildings and artifacts in virtual recreations, at least at our level, at an indie level or academic level. It seems that we are afraid of the lack of information. When we are in an archaeological site, we often find the remains of walls and other architectural structures. But obviously, for obvious reasons, we don't have remains of people. And that being said, I think that to enhance a virtual reconstruction is essentially to include well-studied people with well-studied dresses and jewels, if that is the case, because it will give visitors, but also colleagues, specialists, experts, a richer vision of the experience compared to just this room and villa without people. Is from my point of view, it has to be almost mandatory to include virtual characters and animated characters. But this is just my point of view. I think, and I will explain you at the end of this presentation how I'm confident that the using of virtual characters can be even integrated inside the extended matrix as other units. And later, if you are interested, we can discuss about that. And we come to the extended matrix, and actually to the question of how to document and justify the decisions made during the virtual reconstruction process. This is the elephant in the room, or has been for a long time. I think that normally in these or similar projects, people tend to work very hard to give a solid basis to the results they are selling. But the question is, or the question remains, how do we organize and display that information? I think here is the difference. Before the arrival of the extended matrix, most teams working on virtual reconstructions or virtual simulations, whatever, made a huge effort to gather, to collect and study all available information, but maybe not so efficiently. And that is precisely why I think the extended matrix is so necessary. Actually, we are trying to adapt, and like everything, it takes time and practice, and we have only just started. But we are pretty sure that it will become an essential tool for all those who are involved in this field. And we are seeing it, I don't know, a growing interest in learning to use these instruments, this tool, in not only in Italy, but also in Spain with our own students, and in other countries as well, apart from Italy or Spain. So at this point, all we're trying to do is in this project, follow the guidelines, the huge documentation that Manuel Demetrescu has made available and open to anyone. So first of all, we have segmented all the different data from field survey, digital photogrammetry, GIS, and so on, drawings, photographs, scientific papers, and any other reference available. In this case, we wanted to change and adapt all of our usual 3D modeling pipeline, or we can call it CGI, and adapt it, as I say, to the extended matrix. To do this, in each stage, we have tried to follow, as I say, the guidelines proposed in the methodology exposed by Emmanuel, and work in parallel. The 3D modelers and the responsible for the extended matrix, in our case, our colleague Javier Muñoz. Any element that has been modeled must have been previously introduced in its corresponding class in the general graph of the project in the extended matrix, creating later in Blender the different proxies corresponding to the different elements based on their role in the graph. Evidence is derived from the photogrammetry survey, wall dimensions calculated based on certain types of information and so on. This part of the village of the villa, the Oecus, is the most advanced we have in terms of the extended matrix graph. And in this sequence of images, we can see a bit of the process as an example. And starting from the data we get from the photogrammetry, we then move onto the modeling of the different proxies that allow us to quickly and visually identify in a visual and simple way the different blocks we are working with. As I mentioned last week in a brief presentation of this project at the Extended Matrix Conference, it is very common for us to find deeply affected or eroded structures in archaeology, like this example. We all know this. And actually, I think that one of the benefits that the Extended Matrix offers us is that it allows us to show in a simple but visually very effective way how we modeling in 3D. Obviously, we haven't followed the path of this wall that was literally sinking, but we have corrected it. Based on what? Based firstly on common sense, but secondly on the extensive knowledge that the Romans had about topography and architecture. It is highly unlikely that this floor wall originally had this this slope. So in red, you can see here that slope I mentioned, and in blue, our proposal. And the same goes to the walls dimensions here. All these suggestions based on this case on the thickness of the wall that has been preserved and recorded using photogrammetry. Now, this was a mistake, I guess, one of many at this still early stage of the project. Obviously, this bolt, the upper bolt, has to be in green. So indicating that we can only guess, based in other similar buildings, that this one was covered by a vault and not by a, I don't know, a flat roof or other alternative. Okay. So as you can see here, in the absence of other more verifiable proofs, we finally gave the vault its correct color and classification in the general graph. To finish with this part dedicated to the extended matrix, I mentioned before that we used motion capture and virtual characters to in order to enhance our work here. So now we are just trying to figure out how the extended matrix can deal with these entities, because it is not only the characters, but their hairstyle, their dresses, the footwear, the jewelry, and so on. Even their place in the stibadium, that big half round table in the oecus, even their position in the stibadium is not casual at all. And these aspects are not so easily to deal with as things that doesn't move, like walls or ceilings, buildings in general. We want to see if the extended matrix can also handle these invisible or non-tangible cultural elements, because they are also equally key to understand the what we are visiting or what we are studying. Okay, I don't know if Emmanuel will agree, but in any case, I think it can be strange and challenging, but at the same time necessary if we have into account that many projects involving virtual simulations or reconstructions are increasingly using virtual characters to enhance, to enrich the project. No. Anyway, this is how we are dealing with it right now, assigning units not only to the characters, but also to their positions at the table in this case. Because as we know, so many aspects of Roman social life were deeply ritualized. And since we know how people sit at the table, and that aspect can give us so many information, we must include it in the extended matrix, at least from our point of view. I don't know if you agree, but please let me know what you think at the end of this presentation. Okay, yes, just to finish with the extended matrix, here you can see what I was talking about. Compare these two graphs here. Here, my dear colleague Javier Muñoz has added here at the right, I don't know if you can see it, some new units, can you see them? Corresponding to the 6 characters at the table. So I don't know. Let's see. Let's wait for Emmanuel's opinion. But in the meantime, please let us know, what do you think? This will be the passage between the 3D modeling, the photogrammetry survey, the 3D modeling, the proxies in the extended matrix. Again, with this error here, because the volt, remember, has to be in another in a different color because it's another entity. And then finally, in this hypothesis, because this render is just a hypothesis to play around with the different characters. Yeah, and this is just a sneak peek of the some project results. Again, this is a working hypothesis for us. And then it is not filmed, as you can see, in 360 degrees, but it's very useful to us to see how things are going, or if there are aspects or elements we need to change, or we need to switch strategy or so on. I think that's pretty much it. I want to say thank you to the ArcheoFOSS organizing committee for their patience and for inviting us to participate. And if you have any question, I will try to ask it, to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It was a very interesting talk, and they're really impressive, the renders and the visualizations. So congratulations.
Thank you.
However, it was also very nice to hear that you reinforce the idea that beyond the modeling and the texturing, there's a lot of work done behind the documentation and the hypotheses that people don't normally see, but it's kind of the core that makes it possible, everything else. So it was really nice to hear that too. So I'm not sure if there's any questions. If not, I actually had one question that was not really related to the extended matrix or the virtual site, but it's to reconstruct the vegetation of the site. Did you had any archaeological evidence for all the reconstruction of the vegetation and the plants?
That's a big one, because this Roman villa is partly protected, and we actually have the 3D model from this 3D survey. Through the years, we have tried different technologies, from the first laser scanners and then digital photogrammetry. And yes, part of the villa is well documented. Other parts, like the peristylum, the open courtyard at the center of the villa, are based on little evidences, physical evidences, and mostly because luckily our Roman friends were so modular, and they love, as you probably know, they love symmetry, and sometimes all you need is just one part of the original structure to figure out how all the building could work. Obviously, this is always a hypothesis.
yeah, I think the best part of the reconstructions is that you can show a hypothesis and present it and explain it to everyone else in a very easy way. So
I agree.
Yeah, thank you for answering my question. And I think there are no more questions in line. So just to say thank you very much, and thank you for giving the talk today. And we'll hope to get any updates from the project, and best of luck continuing with all your work and for all the team. Yeah.
Thank you, Cristina.
Thank you.
Grazie, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Grazie, non vi vedo, ma grazie per le vostre parole. Mi dispiace che avete dovuto soffrire il mio inglese, ma è così, non posso fare altro.
Non ti preoccupare.
No.
Noi
Noi spagnoli siamo